This course should take about 45 minutes to complete. It is divided into 3 sections of 15 minutes each. The first section is an introduction to anti-money laundering. The second section covers the main laws. The third section goes over some important concepts. At the end there is a short quiz that will take 15 minutes. You will automatically receive a certificate by email if you pass with a score of at least 80%. In Section 1, we'll answer the following questions. What is a money services business, or MSB? Why do MSBs need AML training? And what is money laundering? So what is an MSB? Money services businesses are considered non-bank financial institutions and have certain special obligations under the law. Money transmitters are a kind of money services business that accept money for transmission from person to person or from place to place. There are 2 distinct kinds of money transmitters: licensed transmitters, or principal transmitters, and agents. A principal licensed money transmitter can do business with customers directly in its own stores, or a principal money transmitter can also do business with the public through agents. Agents represent money transmitters to the public. The agent is the one who explains the rules to the customer, obtains the needed information, and makes sure the correct information is entered into the system. The agent is responsible for keeping all work papers related to the transaction, like forms filled out by the customer, copies of ID documents, signed receipts, etc., for at least 5 years. What are the different kinds of MSBs other than money transmitters? Other MSBs are businesses that exchange currency in amounts over $1,000 per person per day, or cash checks in amounts over $1,000 per person per day, or sell checks or prepaid access in amounts over $1,000 per person per day. These businesses must all register with FinCEN. Principal money transmitters at any amount are MSBs and must register with FinCEN. Money transmitter agents are considered MSBs and are subject to all the same requirements as principal money transmitters, but do not have to register with FinCEN as long as they do no other type of MSB business, such as cashing checks over $1,000 per person per day. All MSBs, including agents, must keep certain records and make certain reports. All MSBs, including agents, are required to have a 4-point AML program. Most MSBs must register with FinCEN, usually not agents. State licensing might be required for certain MSB activities. Money transmitter agents work under the transmitter's state licenses. Here are some good reasons why MSBs need AML training. By law, AML training is required of MSBs. To comply with the law, you first must know the law. Not knowing how to handle a situation may lead to a violation. Because we deal with the public, work with cash, and send money to other countries, our industry is vulnerable to abuse by money launderers. Knowing this, we are expected to do our best to prevent money laundering through our business. Because banks and their regulators see MSBs as high risk for money laundering, they need to verify we have effective programs to mitigate the risk. So a good AML program reinforces your good reputation and helps you to maintain a good relationship with your bank. A good AML program also controls financial risk and helps protect against fraud. The IRS examines MSBs for compliance with the Bank Secrecy Act, and these exams are increasing. These audits are really nothing to fear if you prepare, as you are doing right now. Penalties for non-compliance can be severe. Consequences may include legal bills, loss of business, loss of bank accounts, asset forfeiture, fines, imprisonment, and having a criminal record. So who enforces these rules? The Internal Revenue Service, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the U.S. Department of Justice, your local police department, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, the prosecutors, the courts, your local sheriff, and many more such agencies. So remember, above all, this training is for your own protection. A sting operation is when law enforcement will target the transmitter, the agent, or both, in order to test our systems and our integrity. They want to make sure that we are doing the right thing. So law enforcement will get someone to pretend to be a customer. This person will look and act just like a regular customer. You believe it's a real customer. You become comfortable with the customer. You may even like the customer. Then one day the customer may offer you a bribe to do something wrong. Or the customer may ask you for a favor. They need you to break up the transaction or make up a different name so they do not have to show identification. The story behind this favor might seem to make it believable and urgently necessary. Or the customer may simply tell you the money being sent comes from the sale of drugs or some other criminal activity. The idea is to get someone behind the counter, the agent, to accept that money or say something wrong, and then use it against you in a court of law. The customer may be secretly recording the conversation. Or the customer may bring a friend to act as a second witness against you. There are sting operations going on all the time, and the bees look just like any other customer. So treat every conversation as if it is on the record. If someone offers you a bribe or tells you the money they are sending is from some sort of crime, the proper thing to do is to refuse the transaction. If you have already started the transaction, stop what you are doing and halt all work on the payment order. If you have taken in the money, return it to the customer. State in a firm, clear voice that you and your company have never done such a thing and never will. Ask the customer to leave and not return, and speak with your supervisor or the transmitter's compliance officer right away. Document the incident. Chances are you have just been stung. If you just say no, you can easily stay safe. Money laundering is when money from illegal sources is concealed, converted, or transferred in order to disguise its true origin or ownership. Money laundering is a crime whether or not the money is illegal. Hiding the money, evading the reports, falsifying or obscuring the record, these are considered money laundering crimes in and of themselves. Money laundering is a crime under federal and state law. Helping or even allowing someone to launder money is considered money laundering too. Doing unlawful, unlicensed money transmission business or not registering with FinCEN is considered a money laundering crime also. Money laundering is the main legal danger in our business. The main thing we want to avoid is to unknowingly facilitate money laundering. The dictionary defines terrorism as the use of violence and intimidation in the pursuit of political aims. Terrorism is a crime. The financing of terrorism, or of any sort of criminal activity, is also a form of money laundering. Moving or handling funds that will be used for criminal activities is a crime. So is assisting anyone to move such funds. This is sometimes called reverse money laundering because it reverses the process. It is taking money that may be clean to begin with, but is intended to further a crime, thus becoming criminal money. The three phases of money laundering are placement, layering, and integration. Our businesses can be used in all of these steps. Placement is placing criminal money into the legitimate financial system, usually cash, while avoiding suspicion or leaving a trail. Money transmitters are considered to be particularly vulnerable to abuse for the placement of cash. Layering is distancing the funds from their origin, using many layers of transactions to make the paper trail more difficult to follow. Integration is when a criminal wants to be able to spend his money, he needs to create a plausible story as to how it was earned, and a legitimate-looking paper trail intended to support the pretense that the money was legitimately earned. Structuring is deliberately breaking a large transaction into smaller parts in order to avoid having to show ID, or evade any report that would be required by law or internal policy if the transaction were done all at once. The customer may break up his money into different transactions, over many days, over many locations, or the customer may have many different people do the transaction for him without telling who it is really for. Structuring is an attempt to mislead us into not asking for ID or not making a report by deceiving us into thinking the customer is sending a lower amount than he or she really is. Customers may use variations of their first, middle, and last names to prevent our systems from noticing related transactions. Structuring is usually used in the placement phase and is considered a money laundering crime even if the money did not come from a crime. Smurfing, used in the placement phase of money laundering, is a form of structuring. In order to get cash into the financial system, a criminal hires many Smurfs to do his transactions for the purpose of evading a reporting or record-keeping requirement. Not all repetitive transactions are structuring. If they are a normal part of the customer's routine for some legitimate reason, then repetitive transactions are okay. It all depends on why the customer is doing it. This is why it is good to know your customer and ask questions. If the customer does not hesitate to show ID when asked, that is a good sign. Keep the ID on file. These are your best customers. This is the end of Section 1. When you're ready, move on to Section 2.